Hey, what's up? This is Adelaide here. This video is all about the Y-3 Kaiwa, these little shoes over here. Kaiwa being Japanese for conversation, which is an appropriate name because these shoes seem to have gathered a little bit more interest than a lot of recent Y-3 releases. Personally, I feel like these are one of the more exciting Y-3 releases over the past 3 seasons, certainly in terms of footwear, so I wanted to pick these up early, give them a little bit of a review, and see exactly what they're like. These shoes come in at £329 or $400, which even for Y-3 is a lot of money. So let's see what they've got going on in these shoes to help justify that price, what kind of cool features and interesting little visual and aesthetic touches can we expect here. First, let's talk about the overall look of these. It's clear that these are a very 2018 shoe. I feel like they're very on trend. They've got that chunky, exaggerated look popularized by shoes like the Balenciaga Triple S. It's kind of a Y-3 styled take on exactly that. Although this is definitely Y-3's answer to the chunky, ugly shoe silhouette, I feel like the main influence here is not from those shoes, but from Rick Owens. If you have a look a couple of years back to the Rick Owens Tech Runners, for me, there are a lot of aesthetic similarities between those two shoes. That was something that I noticed immediately, and it's one of the main things that drew me to this shoe initially, because I really like those old Tech Runners, so to see that kind of style being updated and then applied in a slightly different way, and giving a bit of a futuristic twist, I think is quite cool. Although some people will probably criticize these for being a little bit derivative, in many ways they are very similar, using that similar leather, the same off-white and black kind of coloring. And apparently, although I'm not sure if this is actually true, the same teams of designers worked on both those Adidas Rick Owens shoes and Adidas Y-3. So that would certainly explain the aesthetic similarities there and the design inspiration, shall we say. Experimenting with deconstruction in fashion is an in vogue thing to do, with things like Virgil Abloh's The 10 collab with Nike, using those kinds of work in progress styles. That's been brought over to Adidas Y-3 as well. You'll notice on these that the leather sections have these unfinished edges, there's visible stitching around there, there's parts which aren't fully attached. The Y-3 logo itself has got this visible stitching going all the way around it, and with the Yohji Yamamoto stitched on over the top. And the white sections on the midsole have a very stuck on at the end kind of look, as opposed to being fully integrated with the rest of the midsole. I think that aesthetically this works really well. It's one of the things about this shoe that I like. It's a bit more subtle than some of the Nike off-white shoes, which can look a bit over the top, and the same can be said with some of those brands that are experimenting with deconstructed clothes at the moment. I think it's fairly well integrated within the shoe and it looks pretty good. In fact, aesthetically overall, I almost can't fault this shoe at all. I think it looks really cool. It's got its own futuristic Y-3 kind of look, but at the same time playing into some of those trends that are popular at the moment. I think they've done a really good job with it. And also referencing some of those other shoes from the past that I like the Rick Owens Tech Runner. If I were to change anything, it would probably be the back protruding section on the midsole. From some angles, it just looks a little bit over the top. I kind of prefer the way that the Rick Owens Tech Runner did it, where that sticking out section goes all the way down to the outsole, as opposed to being a kind of bubble halfway up the midsole. Had they done that with this shoe though, I think it really would have looked too derivative of the Rick Owens Tech Runner, so I'm kind of glad they didn't, just for the sake of these being a little bit different, but it's not exactly my favorite part of the shoe. Let's talk a bit about the comfort and performance of these. One of the first things that you'll notice when you pick these up is that they're surprisingly light. Although they look like a very chunky and very heavy shoe, yeah, they're not too bad. I feel like you can move around freely in these. I hate being weighed down by really heavy shoes. It's the reason why most of my shoes are Flyknit or Primeknit, but yeah, these are definitely not a problem. I think that's because the leather is relatively thin and supple, and around the back of the upper, it's actually made of neoprene in a similar fashion to a lot of Y-3 shoes, so that helps save a little bit of weight. And somehow, despite the midsole being quite thick and having those protruding details, that doesn't seem to weigh a huge amount either. The sole is fairly comfortable. They're not quite as springy or responsive as something like a Boost sole, but if you compare to a lot of other Y-3 shoes which use the tubular sole, like the Cassas do for example, they're definitely more comfy than that. I find the tubular sole to be a bit too hard, and it's also really hard to drive in as well because it has that weird well, tube-like detailing on the outsole. But these are pretty flat on the underside, but they've still got a decent bit of grip to them, so for day-to-day wearing, these should do the job just fine. The combination of the neoprene and the leather, and the fact that unlike a lot of Y-3 shoes, the laces do actually do something, means that the upper of these is pretty comfortable to wear as well. However, there's two issues that I've noticed. First of all, because there's no real support at the back, it is just all neoprene, your foot can slide a little bit, even when these shoes are quite snug. And secondly, the sizing of these does seem to be a little bit off, in that normally Y-3 stuff fits pretty big. Often Casas, for example, people suggest going half a size down. I have some Casa sandals which are a full size down, but I bought these ones here true to size, and it feels like in the toe box I don't really have enough room. So I'm going to order an 11.5, so I'm going to go half a size up on these, and I'll report back in the comments with my findings. But yeah, I would suggest, based on these, go half a size up, because it feels like the toe box is kind of triangular like that, and it's very restrictive on the top of your foot. So I feel like personally I could do with a little bit more room up there. Your mileage might vary with that one. If you've got quite narrow feet, then you might find true to size fine, but mine are, you know, average, maybe a tiny bit on the wide side. So I feel like I would rather go half a size up and then just pull the laces in a little bit tighter to help secure, rather than, yeah, suffering with a toe box that kind of feels like my toes are being squashed in. The kinds of things that I would wear with shoes like these are much wider trousers, either long length ones, as is the current trend with these chunky shoes, where the trouser kind of falls over most of the shoe, kind of obscures it a little bit. Or I also think is good, go for some nice wide cropped pants, and then you're still showing off the shoe, you're not hiding it, but you're not making them look like clown shoes either by having like a heavy tapered thing. I feel like if you have something that's kind of grippy at the ankle, these are going to look too big because they're pretty chunky already. You want something that's going to balance them out a bit. And also, because they are very distinctive and very recognizable, very eye-catching shoes, you don't want your whole outfit to be super understated. I don't think. You can go a little bit flamboyant with these, where, you know, a little bit of black and white, mix it up, play with proportions a little bit, do the whole Yohji oversized drapey thing. I think that kind of style is going to work pretty well here, rather than trying to go ultra slim sportswear type thing, because it's not going to be a great mix. And partly because of the similarity to previous Rick Owens shoes, looking at that Rick Owens aesthetic, I think could also work pretty well with these. Go for a little bit of a sportswear Rick kind of mix. Overall, my thoughts on these are pretty positive. I really like the look of them personally. I appreciate they're going to be a very divisive shoe because they're not exactly under the radar. You probably can't wear these with every outfit. But as I've said already, a futuristic take on some shoes that have come before, plus some style that is very much 2018 contemporary fashion. And overall, these are pretty comfy as well, bar those potential sizing issues, but as I say, I will update that when I get a different size in. And for me, that leather, which is quite thin and supple, and the neoprene as well, make this feel like a much more premium shoe than your standard Nike or Adidas, as they should, given the much higher price. So yes, these are expensive for Y-3, however, they're using quite a few cool materials, visual details as well. There are a lot of different elements to this shoe, and if you compare them to the Rick Owens shoes that I feel like they take some inspiration from, which can easily be £500 plus, then they don't look like such a bad deal. However, although this shoe specifically seems to have generated more interest than a lot of Y-3 shoes over the past couple of years, it's very possible that these will last until sales. It's not uncommon for Y-3 shoes to go on sale at the end of the season, so if you're really desperate for these now, then by all means pick them up. But if not, if you feel like this is a little bit too much money for me, especially for something that's Y-3, then give it 6 months or so. You might find that these start popping up 30% off, or if there's a lot of them around still, you might even get 50% off, and that makes it a much easier pill to swallow. I know certainly if I saw these at 50% off, if these were, yeah, £160 or $200, they would feel like a really good deal for me. So if you're umming and ahhing about these, I would bookmark them on your favorite retailer, check back occasionally, and then you'll get a feel for how the stock is selling, if they're going out of stock, if they're likely to make it to the sale. And that really is all I have to say about the Y-3 Kaiwa. Let me know what you guys think about these down there in the comments. Do you think that these are super ugly, you're not really feeling it? Or like me, do you feel like these are one of the more exciting Y-3 shoes of the last couple of years? Either way, stick it down there in the comments. And of course, if you enjoyed the video, please do give it a like, and we will be back next week with some more stuff. So until then, I'll see you later. Shout out to Chatty. Sorry about the chair. I did buy it secondhand. It's extremely comfy, but it is a little bit squeaky, so I'll try and sort that out. And shout out to Patrol Hiao. I think you pretty much nailed it with that comment. The stuff in that last video is definitely the first things that you might come across when you're getting interested in techwear, but it doesn't necessarily represent everything that techwear is. But I did enjoy reading all you guys' comments on the techwear starter pack, techwear grail stuff in last week's video. There were quite a lot of different opinions floating around, which is kind of what I wanted to see. So yeah, thanks for that. If you like this video, you want to see some more, there's going to be some little squares up there that you can click on, and they will take you to other fun techwear videos. Or if you haven't subscribed yet, you should definitely consider doing so, because there's going to be more videos every single week, guaranteed, without fail, probably. Then you can click on the button and you can get a little ding-a-ling whenever there's a new video up.